in March.
Okay, we'll call our meeting to order of the Berkeley Unified School District Personnel Commission meeting of March 27th, 2024. Oh, it's about 4:30. Mr. Secretary, could you call the roll and establish our quorum?
Yes, Chairman Roeder. Commissioner Goldstein,
Present.
Vice Chair Timothy Carter,
Present.
and Chairman Isaiah Roeder.
Here.
Everyone's present.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you very much. And we'll go to public comments. We have a 15-minute limit on public comments. Is there anyone in the room, see various people in the room today, who would like to make a public comment? Yes, Mr. Hernandez.
Hello, everyone. I would like to talk about examinations. Merit Rules 40.200. I want to talk about 40.200.2. And that's promotional examinations, Ed Code also 45.272. And my concerns are that I haven't seen our examinations being posted for promotional only in quite a while. So I went back and I looked, and I didn't see any for the past year, and I would assume probably for a little more time than that, probably a couple years. And this has been brought up in past meetings by Mr. Roeder, and so I researched it. And 40.200.2, the verbiage is examinations shall or practicable be determined by the commission, be limited to promotional applicants. So they should be first, it should be promotional, thought of promotional. And I understand that not all classifications could be promotional. I understand that, and it's probably a small percentage actually. But we should be looking at, promotional first and then putting it out there for open. So, that's my concern. I want to bring that to the commissioners. Like, can we going forward start thinking about, where it's feasible, we have enough candidates to make it promotional only. As we know, the merit rules are kind of set up for promotions. And I think going forward, that's how we should do this. I do have I don't know if it's a question, but I guess interpretation of the same section. It says that the examinations or simultaneously open in promotional examinations. The word simultaneous to me makes it sound like it's actually two different processes at the same time, right? So you're throwing out promotion and you're throwing out open. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, going back to other meetings where we have a cut score, it affects our promotions, because you could have you could have 5 or 6 people on the promotions list, and at the same time have an open list over here, and you could probably have a different cut score if you wanted to. So it wouldn't affect the promotions, and it might affect the opens in a different way. So instead of combining all the applicants together and coming up with the score, why would you cut promotions that you're trying to promote and having them at a cut? And then, I guess what I'm trying to say, if you lump them all together, you might cut out some promotions. But if you do it differently, look at them differently, then you might take the 5 promotions here and maybe 5 over here, and then bring the list together. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just make one comment, which is sort of the absence of comment, and that is that at public comments, we are not as commissioners permitted to go in depth into the comments that are made. We take notes, and we may very well have a discussion about them at a later meeting, but we're not allowed, if it's not on the agenda, we're not allowed to discuss them in depth at the meeting. Just as an information, I think everyone is aware of that, but I just want to make it clear. Okay, any other public comments, either in the room or there are a few people who are on Zoom. Does anyone else have a public comment? Going once, twice, gone. Okay. We will close our public comments and move to the approval and adoption of our agenda. Do I have a motion on the approval and adoption of the agenda?
A move to approve.
It's been moved. Is there a
And I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve and adopt the agenda. I agree. So passes unanimously. The next item is the approval of our meeting minutes for the meeting of February 28th, 2024. Any changes or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, and I don't have any, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and I agree, so that the minutes are approved unanimously as well. So now we're going to go into a closed session for the purpose of following up on the performance evaluation of our executive director. We have listed it here as 30 minutes, so we won't go over 30 minutes, but we might be sooner than that if we can. So we will reconvene our meeting after our closed session. The report from the closed session is that the commissioners had a follow-up to the performance evaluation of the executive director. And now we will go on to our reports. Item 8, first, representatives from the unions. Yeah, I see Ms. Scher on behalf of BCCE. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I appreciate what Commissioner Roder stated earlier, talking when comments were made, because we do know that if we're unable to get, certain things on the agenda, it's not a discussion, but it's just for informational purposes, as my report would be for information purposes, because we weren't able to get things on the agenda that we do want to have a discussion behind. But what I will do is to take this time to bring to your attention something that we will bring and hopefully have on the next agenda to discuss, and that is our concern with the after-school coordinator and after-school program specialist position. Some of you may remember back in October of 2022, where we were discussing that job description of the coordinator, and there were many concerns stated at that time. And now in 2024, the position, the after-school program coordinators they started in June of 2023. And the testing process started around November, December, something like that of 2022. What we have come to find, and Secretary Castillo is very much aware of what I'm going to bring to your attention today, because we did have the opportunity to even speak to him about it recently, a couple of days ago, because we need to find a way where something has to be done. So the problem is that the after-school program coordinator job description and the after-school program specialist job description is a conflict. And when you look at both job descriptions, it's just, the work is exactly the same. It could be a change in a word that would make the coordinator position appear as if it is different from the specialist position. But one job description is of Local 21, and then the other job description, which is the after-school program specialist, is of BCCE. And we've talked about this many times because we do know that there needed to be some type of organization that needed to be done in the after-school program in a whole. But the problem that has come about is just in who should do what. And BCCE never agreed to give away our work. And what we're finding right now is that the after-school coordinators is doing the work of the program specialist. And it's just causing a conflict. So one of the reasons why there was a whole organization thing in the after-school program was because it was just a conflict in the instructional technicians and the after-school program specialists. But now it has become the after-school coordinators and the after-school specialists. And that's because it's a conflict of work. And then when we're looking at the process, and I just think because it was such a demand to try to get something done that there were just many steps that was not looked at correctly, because when we were going through the list and we were looking at the list, there are, and we talked about this list, and I think Frank brought it to your attention last time. We were talking about this list dealing with the after-school coordinators and the specialists, because many of the people that is still on that list is BCCE members that are promotional now on that after-school coordinators list. Looking at where they place people, and I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I'm just trying to give you a little background, because when I bring it to your attention on the agenda item, you'll have an understanding of what it is that we're talking about. But there's the promotionals, which is like 12 people. Frank, can you bring them the numbers, please? There's like 12 people promotionals, and then it's like 5 open, right? But then there's someone from the open list. There were 3 people from the open list that were placed at the school sites for an after-school coordinator. But you still have all those people that are still on the promotional list. So what we've come to find out is that whoever started or did the interviewing, this is not the commission or anything like that. They interviewed off of the open list first. Yes. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people on the promotional list. And then there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people on the open list. Somehow, if there's 12 positions, there are 3 people off of the open list that ended up being hired before the promotionals. So it's a concern. And all of that, and why I'm telling you this is because all of that ties into the problems that's going on now with the conflict of the job descriptions. So, that's just a little information I'm gonna give you now, because I know that we're gonna have to come back here to figure out what can we do to resolve what's going on at the school sites with, you have one unit doing, the work of BCCE, and we're not giving away we have never agreed to give away 12 BCCE positions. And we're definitely, not willing to give away our work. But I'm just bringing that to your attention. And again, we've talked to Secretary Castillo about it, because we're hoping that us working together, we can come to a resolution where the after-school program specialists are placed back at all sites, and we're giving our work back, and then they can figure out the job descriptions of the coordinator to where they have their own work to do, to where there will not be any overlapping of work, to where it's constantly causing, conflict, and it's constant meetings, and it's just, it's a lot going on in our whole pool. But I think where we, probably started is because we just didn't separate, the duties. So that's just my report today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scher. Thank you very much. Any other union representatives here today? I don't see any. Okay, then we will go on to the district reports. Is there anyone from the district? I don't see anyone in the room. I do see Assistant Superintendent Samantha Tobias Espinoza is on Zoom, but I don't.
I'm
There you are.
sorry, my dog is trying to participate instead of me. I
No,
apologize for that. So I don't have much of a report, other than the fact that Charlie Castillo and myself have been working together with the unions in regards to dealing with March 15th notices. And making sure that the employees who unfortunately had to get those notices of potential layoff have been able to get as much information as they need. We also extended the timeline for them submitting the paperwork and all of that. And Charlie held an informational meeting earlier this week also for those members who were impacted. And we are hoping that none of these will become true cuts, but as you may have heard, the district is in the need to cut $7.1 million to keep our positive certification moving forward. And so it is possible that some of these cuts may become permanent. We are also doing other strategies, and those are actually being discussed right now in the SBAC meeting, which is happening online at the same time as this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent. Okay, we're at the commissioners' reports. Commissioners, Ms. Goldstein or Mr. Carter?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So I attended the California School Personnel Commissioner Association Conference in early March. The commissioner track was especially helpful to me. Some of the focus was on hearings and some aspects of Brown Act and Roberts Rules, which was useful. And I am looking forward to actually having some trainings here for all of us, which I think will help our operations. The other thing I'll mention is that the legislature on I guess March 19th, McCarty, who was the one who did this last year, introduced AB 2088, which is very similar to the AB 1699 legislation that we spent some time looking on last year, that sort of overrides and changes ed code and undermines some of the merit system provisions. So, it sort of feels a little bit like, here we go again. And I am hoping that our staff, as they did last time, will stay in good touch and keep us apprised on what's going on with that. And then last item is just, it's the end of March, and we'll be going over our first read of our budget a little later at the same time that BUSD is going through its budgeting process for the upcoming 24-25 year. I hadn't heard the 7.1 million number. Thank you for that. Samantha, I was working with a slightly less number in terms of cuts, lower number, based on what I saw in the reports from either the March 6th or the March 20th meeting. Net, looking at those notices for anyone who looked at them enough to sum up the numbers, amounted to about 37 FTEs of classified cuts across more than 37 positions. And by and large, those cuts basically take away the OFI function, as best I can tell. It really cuts back on school staff support, the school secretary type jobs. It cuts back on school campus aides, and it really cuts back on instructional technicians and specialists. So, being informed is important. We all share this problem, and we all have to figure it out. And right now, as I look at those cuts, that's what I see on the classified side. When I look at the numbers, just for perspective, if you cut 37 FTEs, fully loaded kind of positions, and this is just a guess, my reckoning is this is about 2.9 or $3 million, including salaries and benefits. So whether we have a $6 million reduction or a $7.1 million reduction, this is somewhere between 40 and 50% shouldered by classified right now based on these notices. So I'm sure we'll be talking more about this. But proportionally, classified salaries are typically 30% of overall salaries at BUSD. So it gives you a sense of, where the things lie. That's my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Goldstein. Mr. Carter, any report?
No reports.
Okay, thank you. So very briefly, I would just like to publicly recognize that this is our first meeting since the March 5th election, and that Measure H, which is the BSEP measure, once again passed, was renewed by very large margins, well over 80%. BSEP constitutes more than 20% of the budget in the school district, and we would be in really bad shape if we didn't have BSEP. So we need to thank the voters of the city of Berkeley for standing with and supporting our school district and providing the funding that we need. The other thing I did want to put, it's been on our radar, and I think it should be on our radar again, and that is the examination process. We had some very important meetings about that the last couple of meetings. We're in the process of that now, and I think it would be useful to schedule a special call meeting at some point. I hope we can make ourselves available to do that, to really dive in deeply into the examination process and how those are performed, the cut score, all of that, and hear from all stakeholders with respect to that, because it's been a bit of a thorn in our side for quite a few years now. So I would hope that we could ask our executive director to work with us in scheduling some kind of a special call meeting in the not too distant future. And that's my report. And so we'll move on to the personnel director's report, please.
Thank you, Chairman Roeder. So as I always do, we had a very strong, solid month. Your exam team managed to have 141 total exams. That was 46 training and experience exams, 64 written, 20 oral, and 11 performance. We hired, despite everything that's going on, we still have positions that we need to hire for. And we had 5 new hires last month. On that note, we had a very successful job fair that was organized with the district and HR, and Kat Cabral, who is the person in charge of the recruitment and retention office. That was news to me, I'm embarrassed to say, but she's been great. She worked with us. We had it in this room, and we had 100 people join us. So it was, we had the HR team there, we had principals there, we had our staff there, we had HR there, HR staff, and we had the union there as well. So it was well attended, and hopefully some good comes of it, and we can continue to do more of them, because we had 100 people there in person. I do have an update for the high school school custodial supervisor. We did the exams today, and we will have them rated. It's just they happened today. We were able to reconstitute 2 of the 3 graders, so we hope to have more information on that, and then we can schedule a special meeting. I won't know obviously on that, but maybe we get some dates today on what a special meeting might look like, so we can have a meeting on that. And so that's good news. These are difficult times for the employees, and I want to definitely thank Samantha and her team in HR. I want to thank BCCE and Local 21. They've been really good partners. We are all kind of rallying together, putting whatever differences we may have, but we're all rallying together for the employees, the 81 employees who were sent notices. I did, not to repeat what Samantha said, but we did have an informational meeting. It was fairly well attended, lots of really good questions. And I think that we all agree this isn't something that with all the new processes, I'm not sure that any of us want to get really good at this, because if we're getting really good at it, that means we're doing layoffs every year. So hopefully this is the first or the last time we do this for a while. But anyway, we are having I'm having conversations with employees every day. I have meetings tomorrow. So we're hoping to not just be informative, but empathetic and sympathetic, and be the ear that they can bend when they have questions. So there'll be more to come on that. My team and I are prepared for the bumping scenarios if it should come to that. We hope it doesn't. But as Commissioner Goldstein had just pointed out, and Samantha had just mentioned, the district has a very large financial climb. So I don't know where this is going to be, but I will, rest assured that we're working very closely with all of our friends in the district and in the union to make sure that this is as painless as possible for the employees that are directly affected. I only have a very short but somewhat disappointing update about EHA. I can only say that I'm in discussions with the district as to where we go next, but timelines have been missed and we're not sure where we go from here. But I should have an answer for you by the next meeting, certainly before then. But Samantha and I are working on a solution moving forward. So we hope to bring you and the district and the members a solution in the coming weeks. The conference was great. I thought it was very informative. This year we had the great pleasure to not just bring commissioners, but bring staff. Everyone came back very energized and informed. It was really good. I think that those are the folks that we are going to be leaning on to give us information on, I wasn't going to mention it, but you did, the assembly bill that Commissioner Goldstein was referring to is going to be presented again. And it does potentially mean some restrictions or serious modifications to the merit system itself. So it's my understanding that the folks at CSPCA are already in talks with both parties, the governor's office and the lobby firm that's putting it forward. So I should have some more information for you by the next meeting. May 23rd is the classified employee recognition event. And, we still have the energy to recognize the employees that have served the district for a very long time. So I definitely invite and encourage our commissioners to attend. It's on May 23rd from 4 to 6. And I think someone on my team, and now that I've announced it publicly, will send you invites. Obviously, these are the classified employees who have served the district for a long time, and we are going to recognize them on May 23rd from 4 to 6. I'm emceeing the event, much to everyone's chagrin, but I will certainly be there to partake. And lastly, I want to report a positive report regarding the budget, at least in the form of how participatory and how collaborative it's been compared to last year. Emily Mayer in particular has been really responsive. She and I have met several times And I believe she's going to try to make it tonight. But she's also at SBAC. But she may come after 6. So hopefully she does, but I did send out and invite the board, the superintendent, Pauline and Emily to this meeting tonight. So I know it's SBAC, but hopefully at least Emily can come because it is the first reading. And I think that's everything I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Executive Director Castillo. The one thing I kind of want to echo Mr. Castillo's disappointment with EHA, and we still have, if I'm not mistaken, 2 phases that have not been presented. The phase which includes Local 21 and the unrepresented employees, both of those groups being very important. And undoubtedly extremely important to everyone here is the compensation phase. I mean, this is a classification and compensation study, and we have, as far as I know, not heard boo about the compensation portion of it. So at least from my standpoint, I'm glad to hear, Mr. Castillo, that you're working with the Assistant Superintendent of HR to figure out how to proceed with EHA. But at least from my standpoint, and I'm pretty sure the other commissioners, we would fully support whatever action you and the district determine is appropriate. And if you need our support in a strongly worded letter of that nature, we would certainly do so, I believe. Okay.
May I ask just one question?
Yes, of course.
You mentioned an office that I didn't know we had. You mentioned Kat Cabral as the head of recruitment and retention. Is that here at BUSD?
It's a district office.
Mhm.
It's the recruitment and retention office. It was new to me as well.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Is that under HR or what's that?
It's not under HR, not to my knowledge, no.
Mhm.
That might have been why I missed it. I mean,
Wow. All right.
Again, I'm not proud of saying it. I missed it, but
Mhm.
she's been great.
All right, I just want to make sure I heard it correctly.
Yeah,
Okay,
Kat
thank you.
Cabral.
I think Samantha Tobias Espinoza has her hand up and may have an additional comment on that. Go ahead, Samantha. Do you have your hand up? Oh, are you on mute? No, you have your hand up. Can she be unmuted, Sarah?
Thank you. Yes, Kat Cabral is a teacher on special assignment that has been hired through the BERA funds, which is our Berkeley Employee Recruitment and Retention Act. She helps us with BPACT, which is our Berkeley pathway for classified employees to become certificated, as well as our recruitment efforts with the different universities and schools in the area, and helps run the hiring events. And she works under Kathy Fleming, who runs BSEP BERA.
So Samantha, is that primarily a certificated emphasis that she has?
It has been a primarily certificated, but we are expanding that out. And BERA is not a primarily certificated. So we have looked at different ways, including helping to pay for one of your Personnel Commission staff members, ways to expand our use on the of BERA funds towards classified as well.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 9, which is our consent calendar, consent items. We have up for ratification four eligibility lists, A through D. Is there any motion or discussion on those eligibility lists? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent items?
I move to approve the consent items.
And I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve items 9A through D on the consent calendar. Is there any opposition? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on to our conference items, which is 10 on our agenda. And the first is a step advance request for S. Stewart. It's attachment A, and I believe pages 12 through 19. Mr. Castillo, would you be kind enough to introduce that, please?
Of course, Chairman Roder, thank you. So Ms. Stewart has over 3 years of relevant experience. She has, if you'll notice in her documentation, the paraprofessional certificate with a special emphasis on autism. And she has the degree and 3 years of experience. So far, and I know we are in the process of revising our merit rules. So, but so far, the matrix that we have agreed upon for these requests are that it's initial placement. So we do that hopefully when the person's new for 6 months, ideally. The second thing is that in the language, it's recruitment and retention. So we always try to establish, is this position something that we are in dire need of recruitment, and do we want to make sure that they don't go somewhere else? Special ed is definitely has been and probably has been in the 27 years I've been involved with schools. Is and probably always will be a need, a recruitment need. So based on the 3 years of experience and the 1 year for the degree, I'm recommending a step 4. Ms. Stewart did ask for a step 5, but given that we had the agreed upon years of experience with the advanced degree, I can't do 5. I only can see 4. So that's why I'm recommending 4.
Thank you, Executive Director. I see that on Zoom, Ms. Stewart is on Zoom. And I certainly would be happy to provide her with an opportunity to address the commission. So if you would like to address the commission, Ms. Stewart, please raise your hand and you can do so. Your virtual hand, that is. I'm not seeing Ms. Stewart's hand raised. So I think we'll go ahead and see if any of the commissioners would like to make any comments or ask any questions regarding this.
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. Can you explain or give us an idea of what the other SPED IAs come in at with the educational background, and are they typically, do they all start at 1, or can you give us an idea of the average?
Of course, Vice Chair Carter. So they all start, unless requested, all of the classified employees, including the IA SPEDs, start at step 1. But for a specific range for step 1 for the IA SPED 2, they start at $23.49 an hour, which is basically $38.17 for the month. We don't have our results back from EHA. It's not completed, but I would anticipate if I was doing this class and comp study, now, especially with the fast food legislation, fast food workers start at 20 an hour. So I would definitely say that 23 an hour is not a lot of money. I know you didn't ask that, but that's my own editorial on that. In regards to, what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
What's the average
Average.
sped IA? What do they all come in at step one?
Yeah, unless they request this, yes, they all come in at step one.
Okay, and their relative experience, is this an entry level position? Can you?
It varies. I mean, we've done, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I know that I do ask for the IA sped twos quite often. I mean, pretty much whenever they've asked or requested, I have made a recommendation of some kind. But they have to initiate the ask. Which is again, going back to my earlier point, I identified one of these jobs as like one of the ones that I was hoping EHA would come back with a proposed range. Because again, my feeling is that the sped classes are underpaid and they're not paid very well. But unless they ask for it, I can't recommend it. So they all start at step one unless they're doing the paperwork to request it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Goldstein?
Thank you. Yeah, a couple of questions. When I looked in the documentation, what I thought I saw was that this candidate was working on a BA now. I didn't see an advanced degree, and I'm just wondering, what did I miss?
Well, I know I saw that discrepancy too, but
Mhm.
she does have the, and maybe advanced degree was not the right terminology. She does have the certificate for the, if you notice, she has the.
She's the
um,
para,
eh,
sir.
Right, the
Right.
para cert, the
Mhm.
certification. So I did count the certification, given that there's a direct nexus between what she does and this job.
Mhm.
But I probably shouldn't have called it an advanced degree.
All right,
That's-
I just was confused because I wasn't sure I
No, that,
was
my
seeing-
terminology was off on that.
And a question here, because I don't think BUSD has a job title called anything like, one-on-one para educator
Mm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think in the IA2 that job does that work, but I thought I should check that.
I'll tell you what I know, just based on my experience with the high school. I know that, and I don't know if she's going to be working at a high school, but the one instance in which I can remember an example of a one-on-one situation was at a high school where the child had severe disabilities and the person in charge assigned an IA sped to work with the other person like one-on-one. But it's not identified as such. I think it's left to the district's discretion to make that assignment.
So are there sometimes assignments where someone with the title IA, SPED IA2 is getting a one-on-one para?
I only know of that one example.
I'm
It-
kind of looking over at Erin.
Yeah.
She's nodding her head
It,
also.
okay, yeah, and yeah,
And the reason this matters, I don't think we can fix this here, but I've done some research at other districts that have both job titles. And there's no question that if you have both job titles, generally your IA is kind of in the general ed classroom and maybe working with a few SPED students who are in that class. Where the one-on-one is doing much more specialized work, with a, moderate to severe special ed student. And what I know about the very limited comparative sample that I have done is if you're doing one-on-one, you're probably earning more in the range of 30 to 40 an hour at other school districts versus if you're doing just, sort of general ed, SPED support work, which is what this range 36 describes. So when I looked at this candidate, and I saw the ELVO experience, which I think is the 3 years that you're talking about. This is good experience with a population that, sometimes falls into that, sometimes not always, falls into that one-on-one para. If you're working with profoundly autistic kids, you may find yourself doing that one-on-one. Based on what you're telling me, if I guess I don't know enough about the cert to know if the paraprofessional cert is sort of a BA equivalent kind of thing or not.
No, I don't think it is. I looked at so you notice the governing kind of educational grader for it is Alameda County, and
Mhm.
it's a cert. It would be the same cert. I mean, they differ from anything from 3 weeks to a year, but this one's more on the longer side. I mean, having the certification definitely means that the person's been, prepped on, group dynamics, single dynamics. So there's some schooling
Mhm.
in the certification,
Mhm.
which is what I accounted for. Not having it doesn't prevent you from doing this job, but certainly having it, this person brings a familiarity on day one because of that cert.
Mhm.
So it makes a difference, I think. And I believe it should count for her in this case, but.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Goldstein. So I see that Chanel Stewart has a hand up, and I see that Assistant Superintendent Samantha Tobias Espinoza also has her hand up. So Chanel Stewart, can you go ahead and speak to the commission, please?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me good?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Thank you.
Alrighty. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you all for having me here. And I was just listening to some of the questions that were asked. Um, as far as like the type of IA work I do, it has varied since I've been at Oxford. At first I was with two specific kids doing one-on-one, and then I was moved to a more general class, helping out the whole class as the whole. So I've been doing kind of both like individual and classroom work.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
And for the certification, that was more of a focus on like group work and like a classroom setting. So I've pretty much like a background in both like working individually in the classroom, but it's mostly been a classroom setting and one-on-one.
Great. Oh, thank you very much. Now we'll turn to Assistant Superintendent Tobias Espinoza.
Thank you. So I just wanted to clarify, it's hard to compare sometimes the tasks and the one-to-one versus classroom because of the fact that Berkeley is a full inclusion district. We only actually have one true SDC class in our whole district. And most districts have a mixture of SDCs and what are called resource specialists. We don't have resource specialists. All of our teachers are inclusion specialists, basically, in special ed. So that's why the position, we don't have a singling out of a position as either a one-to-one or as a classroom position. It's lumped in, but it is something for us to continue looking at and evaluating as we continue moving forward with any changes that we need to make to job descriptions, and if we do get compensation information from EHNA, getting that information also, it'll be important to look at that.
Great. Thank you very much for that information. The one thing I would add, I'll put on my audit committee cap for a second, and that is that special education is a big driver in our deficits in our district. And I know that there's currently, we're looking at, or the district is looking at how we provide our special education services. We have to provide them not only legally, but ethically and morally too, to the students who need special education, and that shouldn't change. But we need to provide it as effectively and efficiently as we possibly can, and that's being looked at. And that, and therefore it is at least possible that we not emphasize too much the differentiation between one-on-one and classroom. Each of those roles is tremendously important, and they can change, and we need to be flexible, I think, with those roles. So I don't know how that affects this particular step advance request. Comments? I don't see anybody else with their hand up. Comments from commissioners about how you want to proceed on this step advance request?
If
Commissioner
I may,
Goldstein?
I think what I'll comment is this sounds like someone who's got certainly at least a good 3 years worth of credit of experience. It sounds like doing either, both or either. My understanding is it can be pretty different work. I think it's worth paying for. As a matter of consistency, I think when we have awarded step credit, it has been for the BA degree. So I think I differ with the recommendation of a step 4, because I think the BA degree is still coming here. I don't think it's something that Ms. Stewart has yet. So I would be inclined to propose that we grant step 3 on this.
Mr. Carter?
Thank you. So I am a proponent of consistency, transparency, and I'm based on our director's recommendation. Assume he has a matrix that he uses to determine where these people should fall. And I am, again, an advocate of clarity. So if it fits the matrix that our director has come up with, as long as we apply it equally across the spectrum to everyone who comes aboard, I'm in favor of his recommendation of step 4.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Carter. I think I agree with Mr. Carter on this one, and agree with our executive director's recommendation. These are very hard to fill positions, and they're very specialized positions, and they're very important positions. And it at least looks to me that Ms. Stewart does fulfill. I agree with Mr. Castillo that I think her request for step 5 is going a little bit too far based on her employment history, but the fact that she has that paraprofessional certificate, I think is also critical. So I think I would also be in favor of Mr. Castillo's recommendation. Any other comments from anyone? Are we ready to make a motion and vote? Mr. Carter, would you like to?
I motion we approve step 4.
I second that.
And I'll concur.
Okay, it's unanimously approved that Chanel Stewart will be have a step advance to step 4. Thank you very much, Ms. Stewart, for being here, and thank you very, very much for all the work that you do for our district and for our children. It's hard work as a special education instructional assistant. So we really appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, now we're on item 10B, which is the step advance request for Mr. Powell. And that's attachment B, pages 20 through 25, I believe. And once again, Mr. Castillo, would you be kind enough to introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As our Vice Chairman Carter had just noted, I do use a matrix and it has to be consistent. I start that by saying that I know, I can call him Jonathan. I know we've talked. I know him to be very good at what he does. He's very well liked. He's good at his job. And we're definitely very happy to have him. That said, the process here is about recruitment, retention. And the fact is that when we recruited for this position, we had a solid number of applicants, exceeding 20. And then, that list was narrowed down to, I think, 7. So that to me in itself is not a recruitment need. It's definitely a good number of applicants for the job. That's my only reason for not recommending. I mean, obviously, we always want to retain good employees, but this language doesn't allow me to do that. This language is pretty clear about initial placement, meeting the need of a recruitment need. And, unlike the position we just discussed in special ed, the applicant pool for the buyer was not the same circumstances. We actually had a fair number of folks that applied for it. But as I said to Mr. Powell, I can recommend what I can recommend based on our rules and our consistency. Commissioners can disagree with me and decide something else. So, but anyway, I cannot recommend based on our language or the evidence that I've been provided. Thanks.
Thank you, Executive Director Castillo. I believe that Mr. Powell is in the audience. If he would like to address the commission, this would be the time. Just approach the lectern. Go right ahead.
Do I have to, it's already on. Cool. Okay. I saw the lights and wasn't sure. So actually when I I sent it over probably about a couple weeks ago, give or take, but I, learned about the process about a month ago. So I took some time to review, get some paperwork together. And in that time is when I heard the unfortunate news about the potential layoffs throughout the district, the budget needs and all of that. So I did want to say that with that in mind and in good conscience, I want to revoke my request for a step up because with the threat of some people losing their jobs, I cannot in good conscience ask for more money for mine. When I signed a contract to start at step 1 and I can happily work up from there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Powell. That's something we don't hear all that often, and you're to be commended very much for saying that. And based on the withdrawal of this request, I think the request is moot and there's really no action that we need to take. And if the minutes could reflect Mr. Powell's withdrawal. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So Daniel is the department head. He took over for Tom Bollinger. So he's-
Fantastic.
yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners and Secretary Castillo. Sorry, I'm just going to call you Charlie because I'm used to it. Yeah, I'm here to speak on behalf of Jonathan Powell. So I am his supervisor. I'm the hiring manager for the position. I understand where Charlie's coming from with regards to needing to follow a matrix and the merit rules are specifically for retention and for recruitment. I cannot disagree with Castillo that the position had a number of highly qualified applicants. It was a very difficult decision to make. But I did want to speak for the topic of retention. The position as it is now is a extremely valuable position to the district. The buyer position handles the entire district's purchasing. And also I wanted to highlight the accretion of duties that have accumulated really since the position was created and its current job description. We moved to a new ERP software, which requires a lot more daily work. And Jonathan has stepped into the position quickly and has constantly been a great asset to the department. And so I wanted to speak in favor of his step advance increase. I know that what he just said, which was a surprise to me, I would have liked to know that, so I didn't have to come here tonight. But I did want to share that information, and I would like to urge the commission to consider it despite what was just presented. And thank you for your time, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support of Mr. Powell.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, did someone want to make some comments? Commissioner Goldstein?
Maybe just one or two. I know we're having trouble getting information out of EHA. And I know Mr. Powell just hired on recently. Was this one of the job descriptions that was reviewed by EHA? All right, so we did look at the buyer. I was listening to the accretion of duties comment, and I just want to make sure that, eventually when we get the compensation information, there may be new information about what that role pays, and that may be something that we can act on in terms of seeing that. And I'd really just like to comment, what stood out about Mr. Powell's background was the amount of customer service oriented work he has done in the past. And that is just also so evident from your comments. And I'm so happy you're here. Thank you.
And I just want to say I appreciate both of you guys for coming and speaking today. And I appreciate your selfless act in withdrawing your request. That's uncommon.
Yes, I'd like to echo that. Thank you, and welcome to our district.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, speaking to the Jonathan Powell's reasoning for wanting to withdraw his request, I did want to state that while there are some positions in which we unfortunately have to let go or reduce, I think there are positions that are also extremely vital to the district, and we should encourage retention. And so I think that this is a position in which I would like to encourage retention and really promote, because it is vital. It is something that is really important to the day-to-day business of the school district. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Powell.
Just had I come up here to actually argue my piece, I don't know what the proper term to use for this would be. I do want to say that, yeah, I've been here for 2 months, and realistically, I've loved every second of it. It is a brand new type of work to me coming from the private sector. And as far as retention goes, this school district is what I've been looking for the past 13 years, because prior to that, I was just looking for money. I had kids, or have kids. They're still fine. They are here. And so the goal was to be able to take care of them as well as I possibly could. And in the Bay Area, that means money. You follow the money trail. They are now to a point where I could find something that helped me feel good about the work that I was doing, and the opportunity to apply here. And I know several people who have worked for this district for between 5 and 15 years. really is what led me to apply here. So as far as it goes for retention, I mean, the plan is to be here until my partner tells me that I need to stop working so that we can go travel or, just have the time to ourselves. She's in charge.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We hope to see you here at our district for years and years to come. Okay, I think we can move to, and I think it's going to be our last item, which is our conference item 10C, which is our 2020.
I think we have to vote on this though, right?
I was gonna just ask point of order, I was gonna ask
Yeah.
just to make sure. And I don't know the answer to this. I can probably find out, but if someone has withdrawn their request, do we still have to have a commission action to acknowledge and vote on the withdrawal? Because it
I
was
think the answer is
agendized?
no.
No.
I
Okay.
think it's moot. I think
Okay.
it's been withdrawn. It's as if it never happened.
Again, it's never happened before, so I was just gonna.
That's
make
right.
sure.
I agree.
Okay.
Once it's gone, it's
Okay.
not before us.
Right.
Good.
Okay, 10C, 2024-25 Personnel Commission Budget. This is the first reading. That means that the draft budget is going to be presented to us by Mr. Castillo. There will be another public hearing on the budget a month from now, more or less. And at that time is when the budget will actually be adopted. We want to hear from all stakeholders. That can be either now or that could be at the public hearing. As Mr. Castillo mentioned in his comments, he has provided the budget, the draft budget, to the Business Services Office, to the superintendent, and to each of the members of the Board of Education. So they have the opportunity either at this meeting or at the next meeting or at both meetings to present their views, and we are certainly receptive to hearing those views. This, of course, is the budget of the commission. And so we make this decision on our own, but I'm sure we don't take lightly the budgetary constraints that exist currently before the district. So, Mr. Castillo, could you present to us the draft budget, and then we'll open it up for discussion and input?
Of course. Thank you, Chairperson Roeder. I'd want to start actually by acknowledging Emily Mayer, who's here in attendance. She's here virtually, but she's here. And I definitely want to acknowledge that because we have someone from the district office here. And that's important. That has not been the case in the last few years. And I do acknowledge Emily's work. I find her to be very collaborative and very informative and great to work with. So in terms of the budget, we do acknowledge the district situation. We have kept everything flat since last year. I won't revisit last year's asks, but I will say that the increases last year were due to the fact that we hadn't done anything for 10 years with the budget, and there were some service increases. So those have stayed the same. I have not increased any of those items. I have highlighted two, and I will add one more, areas of difference. I only want to focus on the ones that I believe require some discussion, because we could, if we have to, decrease, because again, I want to be cognizant of the fact that the district does have challenges right now. So I wanted to highlight three areas for consideration for the commissioners. The first is the equipment line on line 4400 slash 7403. And you'll notice that last year that was 8,000. This year, I believe, if we have to, we can reduce to 5,000. And just to speak to that very quickly, we have right now a situation in which we've been told by the IT department that our laptops can't have the software that they need to do our testing. So we are using the remainder of this year's budget to correct that problem and buy the laptops and the equipment we need. Because again, I said this to Emily, but the alternative to remote testing is to hire, 5 or 10 people. Well, that's not going to happen. So our only means to kind of continue our exams is to do it remotely. And the laptops are how we do that. For lots of reasons. One clear example, which happened today, is we had an accommodation. So, we had the person come into the office, use our computer, and they were able to take the test. Well, imagine, if you will, that we don't have the laptops, right? That can't happen. So, there are some non-negotiables here, and we do have to have the equipment if we're going to continue to run our exams remotely. That said, the reason, if we have to, I can reduce it, is because I believe most of the laptops that we will need, we can buy in this fiscal year. The reason that number is not 0 is because I don't know what we're going to need next year. I know that my laptop's going to be fine, but I know Sarah needs one. I know that Aaron's probably going to need one, right? So we have to have some budget for some equipment. And the equipment also, by the way, is not just the laptops. It could be everything from staplers to, so it's literally like the equipment that we need to run the office. So it was 8,000 last year. This next year, if we have to, we can make it 5. But I don't want to make it 0 because we don't know what we're going to need. And it would be irresponsible to say, well, let's just cut it. So that's why that's 5. In terms of the other line, which is the one that follows 5,200, travels, conferences, and professional development. I did look at this one and had a lot of discussions with my team and with Chairman Roeder about it. In the coming year, we have legislation that could literally jeopardize how we kind of do business, right? So we're going to have to stay on top of where this is going because we don't control the legislation, but we can certainly have conversations with the folks that may decide it. So I don't anticipate traveling anywhere fancy, but I may have to go to Sacramento, or maybe I have to go to, I don't know. Right. So we do know we have a set conference that's going to be in Southern California. I know I need to go, but we don't have to repeat what we did this year, which was everybody went. Right. So we can make some accommodations, but the variables when you're deciding budgets are always the things that are going to be coming, and almost like a prognostication of what you believe is going to happen. We have the legislation that we don't control. We have some of our rules and our new March 15th notices and legislation and ed code that we need to stay up on, which we do through professional development. And then we have 2 conferences that we go to that, again, are germane to the work we do. One is the Northern Conference, which I can drive to. That's fine. And, I get reimbursed for the mileage or whatever. But and then there's the conference I think is going to be in San Diego this year, which is a 3-day conference. On the whole, I believe if we include all of the training that Erin and her team are going to need, that I may need, and leaving some leeway for legislation and where it's going, because I don't know. I believe that 8,000 is a reasonable number. it's not to say we're going to use all of it, but we definitely I don't want to say to my commissioners, well, I can't go here, or we couldn't get this training or whatever it is. So that is down, that's a reduction from the 12,000 that we asked for last year. It would be a proposal of 8,000 this year instead of the 12,000 we did last year. And lastly, there is one addition, but it's not something we asked for. It definitely is something that I wanted to do, and I wanted to work with Sam on. So far, up until this year, when we're taking it over, Human Resources Office has traditionally done the physicals and pre-employment screening. This is line 5,800. It is after the total other items. It's the fourth line down where it says pre-employment screening physicals. We do that with a vendor right now. Is it Concentra? So we do that. Thank you. We do that with Concentra. I think that in the last year or two, there was some debate as to whether it was the responsibility of the commission staff or whether it was the responsibility of the human resources staff. And we had opinions from experts on both sides. Ultimately, I thought that, and again, this is, I guess it's an ask of the commission. I do want to do it, and I do want my staff to take it on in the spirit of collaboration with human resources. I think they do a lot for us and we work really well with them. I've talked to my team. I think that what the work it would require from us would not be such a great workload that we couldn't manage it. It would be more work, but we can take it on. And it would be a new item in our budget. So right now, that proposal would be $8,000 for the year. And that is, you notice I put physicals in there in parentheses because I know we screen, but it's a different kind of screening. So I wanted to make sure that we understood that it wasn't the type of paper screening we do. It's actually rather that's the right terminology, right? The physicals. So that's it. I mean, the budget is flat. There are reductions. But you know, in conclusion, you're not going to see great reductions out of the personnel commission budget because frankly, it's a pretty lean and mean and small budget on the whole. But I did propose some cuts for your consideration, and you know, I can answer any questions if I have the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I see that Executive Director of Fiscal Services, Emily Mayer, is on the Zoom, as well as Assistant Superintendent Pauline Follensby, as well as Assistant Superintendent Samantha Tobias Espinoza. So from the standpoint of the administration, it's possible that some or all of those individuals would like to address us on the budget. And then in addition, Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Scher, Mr. Cahill, and Rabinovitz are also here on Zoom. So if you would raise anyone who would like to address us who's on Zoom, please raise your virtual hand and I can call upon you, and then we'll be able to have questions and comments from the commissioners, I think. So let's see. Anybody raising their hand yet? Okay, I see Emily Mayer and I see Pauline Follensby. So probably from a seniority aspect, I would call upon Assistant Superintendent Follensby first.
Hello, thanks for unmuting me so I can say a few things. And Emily should actually say a few things as well. I could actually join you in person because I'm in the office. We just came out of SBAC. And in SBAC, we talked about our $7.1 million budget reduction that we have to make to the unrestricted general fund. And as you know, this budget is a part of the unrestricted general fund. So what we had talked about, and we're expecting partnership with the Personnel Commission, is looking at reducing our overtime budget by 50%, as well as our travel and conferences by 50%. So Charlie, thanks for agreeing to look at your travel and conferences. We are requiring or asking everyone to only do mandated travel and conferences. So we're hoping that we can have a budget reduction of 50%, as well as for overtime. And I have not looked at your overtime budget in detail, but I'm also, we're expecting everybody in the unrestricted general fund to participate in this measure and do their part to assist us in having a balanced budget and ensuring that we do not have a qualified opinion and that we continue to certify as positive. So, so the two areas that we're looking at, like I said, was our overtime budget, that's across the board, as well as our travel and conferences. So I will ask Emily if she has anything further to add.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent. We really appreciate your input and thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Ms. Mayor, would you like to go ahead?
Hello. I just want to be able to reiterate what Assistant Superintendent Follansby said. Also thank Mr. Castillo for his partnership in looking through the budget and working on it together. I understand that there are a lot of priorities that all need to be accomplished, and we always want to make sure that we're making sure we can do our core operations. But just to reiterate what Pauline said, I think it's very important in terms of consistency and equity that reductions that we're making in the district's part of the unrestricted general fund is consistent. And so if it is possible sticking within the legally mandated trainings, I do recommend reducing that travel and conferences budget and the overtime budget by 50%.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Mayor. Appreciate it. And then I see Ms. Scher has her hand up. We can unmute her.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I just want to comment on looking at what the budget stated for testing. For decades, we tested in person with only 2 people for many years. So I'm a little concerned with the suggestion that we would need to hire 5 to 10 people to test in person. And I think that we need to really look at that, because I don't think that there is more money needed in testing. I disagree with that. I just think that we need to look into that a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mildred. Let's see if I don't see more hands up. So maybe we'll turn it over to our commissioners and see what comments we have for this. This is not going to be our final decision. This is just really providing some guidance to Mr. Castillo and his staff on the direction we think we ought to go. Yes, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I see one where we have phones this year and we didn't have last year. Did it get moved from a different category?
Yes, so it's and again, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that they had the former budgeting line was all kind of put together. And last year when they were trying to pay our phones, there was like, where is it? So they actually identified, like the finance office separated our phones from the rest of it because our phones were lumped into some other budget item. and then it wasn't getting paid. So then what they did is they said, well, now this line is for the phones, and those phones are mine and Aaron's.
And the second question I have is, from our standpoint right now, what's our projection for the end of this fiscal year? Are we projected to have a surplus, or are we projected to have a deficit on the 747,808 amount for this fiscal year? 747,000? Are we
Oh.
projected to have a deficit or surplus?
You mean the commission itself or
Our current budget in our
yeah.
this current fiscal year.
I do have, I don't know the answer to that just yet, but I do have our year-to-date expenditures. And that is on page, hold on, it's on
29.
'29. It's on this one? Okay. Forgive me, I'm fumbling. Hold on.
Is this something maybe?
She can, but I mean, Mr. Carter asked me, so I believe in looking at it. So we had an up-to-date, so Emily's office provided us with a report on our year-to-date spending, but it was only up to February. It looked like we're on track to not go over, but we did have a couple questions about the deltas in the report. Emily is here. She could probably speak to it more accurately because again, we didn't get a report that was up to date. We got one through February, but it looked okay. But I mean, we still have like March, April, May, June in the budget. So,
Is Emily still on?
yeah, she's still there.
She's on. I don't see her hand up. She may not know. These are always, I've looked at these now for 3 years or so, and it's a little bit of a mystery. One of the problems is that the line items that are in the second interim, for example, and the projections don't match up one-to-one to our budget. So you have to combine some of the items that are in what's on page 29, for example, to get to compare it to what's on our budget. So it's a difficult process to try to answer your question, Mr. Carter. I don't know if Ms. Mayor, I don't see her hand up yet. Oh, yes, there she is. Go ahead, Emily, maybe you can help us see where we are currently.
Sure. So yes, as Mr. Castillo said, this report that's attached on page 29 is from the 14th of February. So we definitely can pull a refresh of the data to take a look at and review. From what I'm seeing, looking at it right now, we look a little bit high on our salaries and benefits, and that's because of the BARA transfer that we do a couple times a year that we'll clean up at the end of the year. And then in terms of the non-FTE budgets, I'm seeing balances in those. I'd want to take a look on a more updated version to see what's happened in the last couple of weeks. But it does look like we have, I think the particular items to flag would be around the consulting budget. It looks like we have about $20,000 in the balance right now. And so just as we approach the end of the year, I think that would be the part I would wonder most about with do we have an encumbrance that has happened in the last couple of weeks or that we know is going to happen or end of year expenses, but that I'm not seeing any red flags of areas where we'd go over. I think that Mr. Castillo and his team have been very responsible with their budget, and it looks like it's on track to me.
And when we're looking at a balance such as that, that's a positive balance. That's more money in the bank than we budgeted for currently, although there may be additional encumbrances coming down the pike.
Exactly. So you'd look at the revised budget to see the budget amounts. And then encumbered are things that are, in process that we've committed those funds to for like a contract. Or our salaries, expenditures or bills that we've already paid. And then the balance is what money we have left over. And the way this report is formatted, if it's a negative number, it has a little minus sign at the end of the number. So they can be a little bit hard to spot. But if you look at especially the 4s and 5s object groups, so the supplies and the contracts, those are all positive numbers.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, at least preliminarily, Mr. Carter?
It does, and I appreciate Ms. Mayor for taking a stab at it. I do appreciate that. One last question. The EA and H fees, are those fees coming out of our budget or is that the district's budget?
Well, it should be the district. And this is something I have to talk to Miss Mayor about, but I forgot to mention, we have a hearing too. There are PC functions and responsibilities that we actually carry out, but should be charged to the district. So to answer your question, EHA should be paid by the district, and the hearing, for example, which is coming, that should also be paid by the district. So it should not be reflected in our budget. Shouldn't be there.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Goldstein, did you have any comments?
I do have a couple questions. So when I look at across the 3 pages, I look at page 27, which shows 3 years of budget, 22, 23, 23, 24 that we're currently in and projected 24, 25. What I like to do is try to compare to documents that I see from finance, just to make sure we all match up. So when I look at 23, 24, our current year on page 27, I see a total budget of 747.8K, give or take. So I look for that number on page 29, either under the adopted budget or the revised budget columns. The revised budget column is closer to that number, but it is different from that number. The revised budget is 706.1K, give or take. And I wonder if someone from the finance department can explain to me why that's different than the budget we submitted.
Ms. Mayor.
Yes, so that is an excellent strategy to use, and we should always make sure that our numbers tie. I 100% agree. The main driver of that difference is that the table on page 27 and the subtotals, those are inclusive of the BERA salary and benefits, whereas the report that's on page 29 is just Fund 01 unrestricted resource, so it does not include those BERA portions.
Great, that's very helpful. Can you help me understand the difference between what is an adopted budget and what is the revised budget?
This predates me joining Berkeley, but the best explanation I can have is that when we start the year off, it is often a lot of information getting rolled over from the previous year. And so sometimes there can be a little bit of a lag before we are able to get a chance to review it with everybody, make those adjustments and true it up to what the actual official budget is. So we have revisions throughout the year. We also sometimes have budget transfers between object codes. And so you'll see variation. But where there's additional things, I would assume it's that we rolled over something that was a little bit under, or there was an additional ask that was granted.
So the adopted budget would be sort of the earlier version of the budget, and the revised budget would reflect maybe some of those changes?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, that helps. Then I guess a question is, let's look at line 5,800, professional consulting services, where both the adopted and the revised budget show 38.4K. In the budget that is shown on page 27, if I have added up correctly, the items that are included in this, and this is an example where we don't have a one-to-one mapping. I think what we budgeted was 43.8K, so I'm wondering why there's a difference. And I realize you're answering these on the fly, that this is maybe something that makes sense to answer back to our executive director at a later time, but wanted to flag that as an area where I see that difference. I don't understand why.
Yes, at the risk of trying to do arithmetic in my head while on the record, I will take a look and I will circle back with Mr. Castillo.
Thank
at a
you.
later date.
All right, appreciate that. Other questions? I'm good.
Okay, well, I'll make my comments. So one is that I agree, I believe, with both Assistant Superintendent Follansby and also with Executive Director of Fiscal Services, Mayor, that to the extent we possibly can, we really ought to take a close look and try. We may not be able to in every instance, but try to parallel some of the cuts that the district is utilizing for other departments if we can. So with that said, it seems that both well, let's start with the travel and conference. I mean, you know, not that big of a difference, frankly, between what Mr. Castillo has proposed and what 50% cut would be. So I would just suggest that Mr. Castillo take a sharp pencil at that line item. As far as overtime, now I'm not 100% sure, but is the hourly overtime that is being considered, is that the line item 2412? Which is the last one under staffing FTE, so that's $4,000. Yeah, that might be worth looking at. What have we spent this year on overtime, and whether it's possible to potentially reduce that. Overtime is something that's difficult to project, but it might be worth taking a look at, it seems. We did go from 2,500 in 22-23 to 4,000. You know, maybe we can go back down a bit. But with that said, I kind of have a bit of an overarching question, I think, which is, you know, we're in a season of potential layoffs. Certainly during the course of next year, setting aside the layoffs, there's always it's not churning exactly, but there's always retirements. There are people who just decide, employees who decide to go elsewhere. And so that there are always going to be vacancies, and that's going to require recruitment. That's going to require testing. That's going to require all of the functions that we do. Just because we're potentially going to be laying people off, maybe, hopefully not, doesn't mean that the work of the commission goes away in terms of future testing, recruitment, hiring, all of that, eligibility lists. But my question, and something to take a look at, is, do we anticipate that it's going to be at the same level that it is now? So, you know, these are somewhat high numbers. Basically, the bottom three have been left untouched, namely the recruiting and advertising, the applications, announcements and copying, and the testing. Is it, you know, this is not something for you to answer right now, but can those three items be looked at? I know the district has not asked us to do this, but nonetheless, can those three items be looked at to see if there are any potential savings, you know, based on a realistic assessment of what the next year's need is going to actually be? I think those really are my comments. I guess the other thing to take a look at might be the other supplies, commissioners' fees, and reimbursements. That's $14,600. That also, I mean, I don't know what goes into those three categories, but you know, that's a fairly high number that maybe can also be taken, a look can be taken whether there's some potential savings. That's,
I know Aaron wants to speak.
yes.
Just real quick, Aaron. So, I do know that, well, so first of all, you said something that I believe to be quite astute, which is the commission business continues. With this, as evidenced by the layoffs, our busyness is now dealing with the employees and they're bumping. So now it's switching from recruitment to finding other solutions and partnering with the district. So the commission is now being kind of, our functions are being showcased as multidimensional, right? And multifaceted. In other words, there's a lot of things that we're now doing that we weren't anticipating to do before. In the coming year, I could probably anticipate consolidation of positions. Maybe we end up taking the class and comp. I'm not suggesting it, but maybe, you know, there's just a lot of possibilities in the coming year that are somewhat unforeseen. And I will say regards to overtime, I can definitely make the proclamation to my office, hey, let's just cut out the overtime. But I will say the overtime is brought on because there are instances in which unforeseen circumstances dictate that now one of my staff members has to work on a weekend. 90% of the time it's because the commission asked or the superintendent's office asked, or there's some mitigating circumstance that required that my team work extra hours. So we can best laid plans, right? But we sometimes don't control it. That said, did you want to speak to the commission?
Yes, I did want to briefly comment about overtime as well, kind of just to echo what Charlie said, but most of our overtime is not to pay for our staff, but actually also to pay for panelists and proctors that are working outside of their regular hours. So we often have to pay them, you know, we've run performance exams all day Saturday sometimes, and we have to pay our staff and we have to pay other staff as well. We also have written exams that are rated by staff who are able to do this on their own time after hours on the weekends. So that actually money goes to pay for other departments and not necessarily just for our staff. For our staff, we do pay them when we've had now like these recruitment fairs that are after hours or on weekends as well. But a lot of that goes to other staff that we pay overtime for. And then one other comment about the expenses in our 5,800 budget. Those are to cover like a lot of the vendors that we use. They have all been raising their rates every year. So, you know, we haven't actually raised that amount very often, but all of our vendors, every single one of them raises their rates by about 10% every year. So there's not a lot of cushion. We can definitely look closely at each one and what we anticipate. And sometimes we don't get those numbers until the end of May to go into effect July 1st. But, you know, we have had consistent, you know, a raise to our rates, you know, every single year. So, and then, you know, the reason also going back to the the staffing line item and the overtime increase. The reason that it went up also that 1 year from 2,500 to 4,000 is because everyone got wage increases because of that 13% that we were able to all see salary increases. So that's why we raised that amount to account for that as well. So it would affect the overtime.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Well, I'm going to ask a potentially revolutionary question. So now that I know a little bit more about raters and oral exams and things like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie and Aaron, as I understand it, we try to use 3 raters for our oral exams. And those are raters often that we pay for. We pay for their time, I'm assuming.
So the oral exam raters typically work within a regular workday. So it's not so much the oral exam, like typically it's the performance exams that we do. We've done them on Saturdays. We dedicate full days and we do need raters for those type of exams.
I see. So it's not the orals. The reason I was saying is because in looking at our merit rules say that we have to have a minimum of 2 raters for the oral exams. And if big if, it would be a cost saving and to have 2 rather than 3. It might be something to consider. If it's not a cost saving, then there's no point. And there may be other important considerations for having 3 as opposed to 2 that I'm not aware of. So, it's a balancing, but it's something to consider. Ms. Goldstein.
I think one other thing that you mentioned that is important, and we have no way of knowing, but it's worth remembering, and I'm sure the finance office has a better sense than anybody. When you budget, any organization has an FTE plan that it budgets to. And that same organization always has some kind of standing vacancy rate for positions, either because positions freeze or, just because they turn over or what have you. One of the things that I would imagine is part of the SBAC process is an estimate of that. And I have no idea against a $7.1 million number, what we think the vacancy rate is. If you do some rough math, we pay in total about $125 million in salaries annually. And that's both certificated teachers as well as classified. And that's from the second interim report, that number. If you assume our vacancy rate is 15% at any given time, that's a chunk of money against 125 million, right there, right? That's going to be 18 million. So, all these things play together and we don't know what that is, but my guess is the CBO's office, has a forecast that they use for that. Similarly, the other big unknown here is we're in the middle of a class and comp study. It would be nice to get the final data. And, probably also we should get a sense of really what the district plans to do with the data once we get it. We want to get the data because we've done all the work. It has certainly helped us surface job descriptions that may need attention. And, that alone is useful. The question of does the data show us to be placed competitively, where we want to be and we're happy with it and there is nothing required, that's one outcome. There are other outcomes. And I think those outcomes actually will have implications on our staffing for the commission for next year. So I think, to the degree we can start to get some clarity on, you know, where this is going to go and what we think we can get from EHA, this will also help us as we look at our budget.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Castillo, I'll give the last word to you if you feel that you've gotten a big mishmash of thoughts or some coherent guidance. I'm not entirely sure, but what do you think?
I have good direction. I believe we can meet those goals that are set by Ms. Follansby. I believe we can do that. I do have to talk to my team, and there's an element of this again unknown about weekend tests or things that we don't expect. But I think that I could talk to my team and we can manage a realistic expectation around what they're asking of us. I do want to look at the overtime, and just look at the 12 months and see if there were months that were busier than others and kind of address those. And hopefully by the second reading, I'll be able to get more in detail before I commit to the 50%, but we'll definitely try. The overtime is somewhat a little bit more complicated in that there's probably, if I look at the 12 months, I could probably see there's a high use of overtime in this area at this time of year. This is why it is. I want to know that before I come back for the second reading. But overall, no, I understand the direction, and we'll do our best to meet that goal.
And it's conceivable if you take a look at the recruiting, advertising, applications, announcements, copying and testing, you take a little bit off of each of those, then you don't really have to do anything to the overtime and you've reached the same bottom line. So it's worth taking a look at.
We will look at it for sure.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to say, since both Pauline and Emily are still on, and I know for Pauline, this is not anything new, but again, putting my audit committee hat on for a second, is so many departments, ours included, have surprises, things that we are legally mandated to do, but we don't know about, and are not in our budget. And as Charlie has said, some of those things are actually just not part of our budget. And I don't precisely know, and it's kind of none of our business how the district budgets for those. I mean, how do you budget for a surprise? But nonetheless, and we know that in this fiscal year, we currently have a disciplinary hearing where the commission decided to retain a hearing officer. That's not going to be inexpensive. And whether that same type of thing may occur next year, we just don't know. And so I think these are things, the district's going to have to be cognizant of, because it's out of our control and also not part of our budget.
Chairman Roeder, can I mention one more?
Of course.
So I forgot to mention it in my updates, but we have secured hearing dates. April 23rd through the 25th will be when the hearing is held. And I foresee that I'll be bringing recommendations to the commission probably in May. So that's already scheduled. That's going to happen. But to the point of where that is in the budget, I do know that I have to meet with Emily, but it should not be reflected in our budget. That is definitely a district expense.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think I don't see any other hands up, I don't think, and I don't see anything further from the commissioners. So that was a excellent discussion, and I think that our executive director has an idea of what to be looking at and bringing it back to our next meeting. And once again, going through the process of providing the revised budget to the district, to Ms. Follansby and Ms. Mayor and the superintendent, and providing it also, in addition to us, providing it to each of the board members and inviting all of those parties as well as the unions to our next meeting, which will be a public hearing where we will actually be adopting our new budget. Okay. So now we have the last opportunity for public comments. Is there anyone here who would like to make a public comment? I think we may have someone rising from our audience. You could just identify yourself again, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, my name is Stephen Theisel. I work with the Transportation Department. I just wanted to say that Mr. Powell is a prime example of the amount of gold that Berkeley Unified School District has. And they need to pay attention to us and keep us retention. I also want to say, if you celebrate Easter, happy Easter. Be safe on the break. We need you back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I'm looking at our remote attendees. I don't see anyone's hand up. So we will close the public comments. So our next meeting, if I'm not mistaken, was changed, and it's now April 29th from 1 to 4, if that's correct. And then the question is, and this is for our executive director and our commissioners, we will be, it appears, in a position to approve the high school custodial supervisor eligibility list, since those oral exams have now been completed. So do the commissioners want to schedule? This has been pending for quite some time and on hold, and it is a position that I'm sure the district wants to fill. So do we want to try to schedule a special call meeting for that purpose? I'm looking to our two commissioners here for yes or no.
I'm open to a special meeting to get this taken care of.
I'm okay with that as well. And I wonder if that would also be a time where we could do our special deep dive that you asked for earlier, you know, or would that be too soon to look at our exam process?
Which deep dive?
This is the one about our exam process, about how we have applied cut scores.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Do you think so? I mean, again, that's important, obviously, and I want to make sure that you have the time to prepare adequately for it and know what.
Yeah, I mean, it's more my team. I can explain my involvement in 5 minutes, but I definitely would want to talk to my team about, you know, the entire process. I don't know. I think we can do it in the next. The spring break, right?
Because spring break is that first week of April, right?
Yeah. but Maybe, can we do it after the 15th?
It's fine with me.
So that would be for our special
Special
call meeting for
Yeah.
starters on the custodial supervisor
Yes.
eligibility list.
Yes.
Okay, well, I for one am available anytime that week.
I'm not available on the Thursday or the Friday, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm available that week.
So I'm not available on that Monday, but I'm available.
How does Tuesday and Wednesday look? Because you couldn't do Thursday, right?
Correct. I can do Tuesday.
How does
Wednesday.
Tuesday?
Tuesday would be perfect.
Tuesday?
Tuesday would be good.
We did it at our normal time. That's not available in the boardrooms available either. How about Wednesday?
Wednesday's good.
Wednesday, 17th,
Yeah.
That's
Wednesday,
okay.
17th,
Wednesday.
4:30.
1:30 in room 126.
In room 126. Well, that's fine. I would suggest if we're going to do it in room 126, I think that maybe want to just limit it to the custodial supervisor.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid that there may be additional, people who want to participate in that.
Yeah.
And B, that it's still, I appreciate you being open to doing it that soon, but I'm just a little afraid that doesn't give you enough time.
That's fair. It's also there's always a health concern as well in that room if we have too many people. So why don't we then keep that special meeting for the high school supervisor? And we'll try to schedule another special meeting in May for the exam process. How's that sound?
Yeah, probably so.
Do we want to try to set up that May meeting now? Because you know how things go towards the end of the school year.
Right. I'm only going to be available toward the beginning of May. Or the very end, I guess. Our regular meeting is scheduled for May 24th.
Yeah.
That if we do something in the boardroom, it's pretty much gonna need to be on Monday or Friday.
Okay.
Recognition is on the 23rd, right?
It is. Thanks for remembering. Yeah.
That's why recognition 23rd.
15th, to do it in the boardroom.
I'm not going to be available on the 15th.
Yeah, I'll be out those 2 weeks in May. 6th, the week of the 6th and the week of the 18th.
The 18th or the
The 13th.
13th, sorry.
Yeah.
13th.
Oh, boy. Well,
How are we early in May? That first week in May?
yeah, if we could do it that Friday, the 3rd.
Right there. I guess technically I will be available Friday the 17th.
Oh, I'm not available.
If that works or helps, but Friday,
It's a holiday.
oh.
The 17th?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not around.
Is that a BUSD holiday?
It's Malcolm
Oh,
X Day.
hello. Right.
Yeah. I
The
took that
3rd works
Thursday
for me
off
as well.
because of that.
The 3rd.
May 3rd.
Yeah, that
Friday.
would work for me.
May 3rd? Do we want to do 4 or do we want to do 1? I know you,
As early as possible.
Yeah, it might be better to do it since it's a Friday, better
Yeah.
to do it
Yeah.
earlier than later.
can we say 1 to 4 then? 1 PM to 4 PM? What? Oh. We're, ironically, we're doing our RIDE pack training, which is exam training that Friday.
Ah,
right.
well, then we probably want to, you have the benefit of that training before we,
I'll be more informed after the 4th. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way, yeah. Okay, well then, can we
I would
look
just
at,
keep it for our normal meeting day and
can we,
okay, for a
yeah,
regular
can we
meeting?
set us, can we make it an agenda item in the regular meeting?
we'll just plan for
we
a long-
can, as long as we don't have too many other agenda items.
Right.
Although it's from 1 to 4, we can go 1 to 7:30. I don't care.
Wait. We're talking about on May 24th, agenda item
Yeah,
meeting,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So that's a 4:30 meeting, right?
yeah,
No, well, wait, maybe it
In,
is.
in April.
I'm
we're-
sorry.
We're
I'm
meeting at
very
1.
sorry.
yeah, the
Right.
April one is early.
May-
Oh, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
4:30 meeting. That's right.
I mean, I guess what I'm proposing is we can agendize it now in the regular meeting
Mhm.
and hope that there's nothing major between now and then, because we're having our second reading on the budget in April, which then frees up May, because normally it's in May. So maybe we make this an agenda item in this room at the regular meeting for the exams, and by then we'll have our RAGPAC training, so we'll be very
Okay.
prepared to address, to have the meeting. Is that okay? Is that okay with the commissioners or Heidi?
It's fine with me, and I think we'll know in the April meeting if that's gonna work or not, depending on how
Right.
our
Yeah.
second,
I think,
our hearing goes.
I think that's right. Yeah.
That's fine with me. And if it takes 2 meetings, it takes 2 meetings. I mean, it's an important, our exams, there's not too much more important than that.
No, I think it's a very good point you bring up. I mean, after the hearing officer is going to have recommendations for the 3 of you,
Right.
and it would be in May. I think that's a valid point. That may take up a large chunk of the meeting.
And would we do that? Actually, that really is a good point, because if the hearing is gonna be April, would you say 23rd through
That's the
25th?
23rd to the 25th.
When do you think the recommendations would be ready? I mean, that might be something we would want to hear on the,
Well,
that first week of May, just because, somebody's job depends on what goes on with that.
it's technically supposed to be to us within 30 days.
So that would be a very quick turnaround. Yeah, right.
I mean, it can't exceed 30 days, but if it takes it up to 30 days, it's like the day
All right.
before the meeting. So then we're looking at June.
So, the results of the hearing would certainly be something we'd be talking about on May 24th.
I'm sorry,
right?
what?
That's sort of our 30 days,
That would be the
Right.
30 days.
right?
We could also have a special meeting in June for the hearing and leave the May 24th meeting for the exams.
I think I'd flip it,
You flip it.
just
Okay.
because,
Yeah.
again, this is someone's appeal and we ought to
Okay.
act promptly.
So then tentatively, we keep the hearing in May, but we schedule the exam special meeting for early June.
We could do that.
How does early June look? June 5th?
I'm away, June 5th, 6th, and 7th, so
Okay.
that would be a day I couldn't make it.
Yeah, that's graduations for folks. Yeah. Okay. How about the week of June 10th?
It's okay.
That's okay, except for the 10th.
Sarah, how does that week look?
Well, school board meeting.
Mhm.
Friday.
What about room 126?
I thought
First-
we didn't want to have it in.
For a special meeting? Oh, because of the exam,
Oh, this is for the,
because of the nature of it. Yeah, okay. Okay. Erin is suggesting looking at the calendar, some dates and some
Yeah,
availability, and then we will give you some dates and we'll do it that way. Because
Okay,
it sounds
That's fine.
complicated. and
fine.
We want to stick to Chairman Roder's strict 7:30 timeline. But no, in all seriousness, we'll look at some June dates and we'll figure it out. Is that what we're suggesting? Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Yes.
That's
Is that
fine.
okay? Is that okay?
Works.
okay, so special meeting TBD, regular meeting, the 29th of April, 1 to 4 o'clock. And a special meeting for the high school custodial supervisor on 4/17 at 4:30, right?
Right. That's what I have. And you'll be sending out announcements and invitations.
Yes,
And
Right.
reminders, yes.
Yes. Okay.
we have 417. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I think we've got our
Okay.
next meetings. Therefore, if I'm not mistaken, we can adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everybody, very much, especially those on Zoom who are still with us.